Buffy when Buffy goes to sleep.
Buffy, are you sure you want to play there?
I'm okay. It's not coming for me yet.
She will join her friends in the world of dreams,
Something's after us.
where nightmares couldn't harm them.
What's after me? Now look into the light.
Until now.
Where are my friends?
Buffy! Buffy! That's not the way out.
The season finale of Buffy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Slade, the Buffyverse Revisited. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Johnny Carson.
I'm your other host, David Letterman.
And this week, we will be moshing into Season 4, Episode 22 of Buffy, Restless, our final episode of Season 4, and it only took us a year to get here.
Finally, a year later.
A year later, ladies and gentlemen, we do apologize for that. And we do have a lot of things to talk about before we get started with this week's episode. And some of it has to do with the how long it took us this year.
I was just thinking, you and I have questioned several times, why'd people stop interacting and everything? And we've both offered up theories, and in actuality, it could just be because we're taking so fucking long to do one season of the show.
Yeah,
They're like, nah, fuck these guys.
Yeah, doing the, because this was Season 4 of Buffy was our first go around of also doing Angel, so we were doing two shows at once, and the way we started out just wasn't working, and I suffered some serious burnout, and just all kinds of shit happened. But now we have it all worked out, nailed down, and to a science. So, well, let's just go ahead and throw the first thing out, James, and that's that beginning next season, so that would be Buffy Season 5, and Angel Season 2, when we come back from our hiatus, we will be doing a new format, basically.
Yes. Well,
we are kind of revisiting a previous format.
We will be revisiting a previous format.
Yes. We are going to go to back to a 2 episodes per week, meaning Buffy will continue to drop on Mondays, and Angel will be dropping on Wednesdays. Therefore, we will get through the seasons very quickly. No more year-long situations. So
right. And we have between the two of us, we have come up with what we, fingers crossed, we both believe is a solid solution to the recording fatigue that Mr. Jeremy spoke of suffering much earlier in this season.
Yes, probably about 8 months ago, 9 months ago at this time.
but yeah, we have come up with what we, again, fingers crossed, knock on wood, believe to be a solid recording solution to be able to deliver 2 episodes a week consistently for you guys, so that we move through this at a much faster pace starting next season. So we're looking forward to that. Actually, we're both genuinely excited about what we managed to come up with for that. So
we will be moving at a much more brisk clip. So.
Yes.
And I mean, we've only got seasons 5, 6, and 7 of Buffy, and we will be done with her. And we will. Anyway, we'll talk about that as we get closer. But yeah, exciting things coming next season, everybody. Now, let me. Well, we'll go ahead and stick with what we're talking about. We will be returning to the air for Season 5 of Buffy and Season 2 of Angel. We will be returning on September the 9th.
Yes.
That will be September the 9th is a Monday, and that will be the first episode of Season 5 of Buffy. And, of course, the September 11th. Ooh, that's rough. Will actually be the first episode of Angel season 2.
Yes, so that will be Buffy season 5, Buffy versus Dracula, dropping on September 9th, and Angel season 2, Judgment, dropping on September 11th.
Right. So mark it on your calendar. September 9th is when we will be returning to the airwaves, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
Now, on to my final announcement before we actually get started with the episode. We are going to run a contest. And it's a very simple contest. It's nothing crazy. There's nothing crazy anyone has to do. But this is how the contest is going to be. Well, this is what it's going to be about. We are going to ask everyone who wishes to take part of this contest to write a brief overview / synopses, a paragraph, 2 at the most, no more. No more. Doesn't need to be anything crazy. I'm not trying to give anybody homework.
Your summer assignment class.
Yeah. And what it will be about is you're going to put yourself in the mindset of you were a writer on Buffy. And Joss Whedon came to you at the beginning of season 4, which is what we're wrapping up today, and said, here's the deal. Initiative, Adam. Now you fill in the rest. So in other words, how would you have brought forth the Adam story? How would you have handled his character and the initiative and whatnot, given that those were mandates from Joss, but you had the freedom to tell that story how you wanted? How would you have done it to make it better than the steaming pile of poo-poo that it actually ended up being? And that's all. That's all you have to do. And you will... the deadline for contest submission will be September the 2nd of 2024. And they need to be emailed to us at buffyrevisited@gmail.com.
Yes.
And when the deadline comes on September 2nd, James and I will gather up and read all of the submissions, and we will discuss between ourselves all of them that we've read, and we will come to an arbitrary decision as to who wins. Next, please, with your email, obviously your email address will be attached to it, but please also give us a name and, at least give us your name and let us know for sure that this is an email that we can get back to you with. Because the grand prize, the winner, will be able to choose any item that they would like to have from our merch store, and it will be provided to you and shipped directly to you free of charge. So that is what we're doing. I will go over all of this again next week in our final episode of Angel. But for now, there you have it. There's our contest. And I for one, am looking forward to seeing the submissions. Because I've always had my own ideas as to how I would have maybe wanted to do the initiative / Adam thing. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys can come up with.
Yeah, I am too, because I think it's always, it's easy when you're not sitting in the writer's room to be like, well, this is how I would have done it. And,
sure.
Or it's even to backtrack on that a little bit. It's easy to watch and be like, well, this sucks. Like, this is awful, but then that's fine. Well, now tell me what you would have done different. How would you have made it not suck? Right. So yeah, I'm interested to hear what other people have to say. Obviously, we've got our own opinions and ideas about what we would have done, which we've talked about over the course of this season, and how we would have changed certain things or whatnot. So yeah, I'm eager to hear what other people think. So
Yeah, because I think, I don't know if I've said this on the show, but it's true. I believe Adam and the Initiative both could have been cool. It could have been different. They could have been cool. It could have been fascinating and interesting. I feel like the overall idea of both of them was just fine, but the execution of both Adam and the Initiative was just horrible.
yeah,
and we've discussed all the reasons that probably was the case, but
right. We've definitely, you and I have definitely said that the ideas themselves aren't terrible ideas. The way they were executed was not well managed. It was,
which is
for me,
for this show.
Right. And for me personally, a lot of it comes down to timing. There to me it seemed to be there was too much happening all at once to get us from point A to point B, where I feel like things should have been stretched out more to be more impactful. And I mean, a perfect example is just in our previous Buffy episode, Primeval, the fight that ended the episode before that. We're supposed to have it's clear we're supposed to have all these big feelings about the fact that the gang is fighting and torn apart and stuff. But it's literally a fight that lasts canonically in the time frame of the show at most maybe 16 hours.
Yeah, and probably more like 12.
Right. And the feeling, it's obvious that the feelings we're supposed to have about it is that this horrible fight has torn the gang apart, and it's been, days upon days that they haven't spoken to each other. Yeah. And that just wasn't the case, So
yeah, and one of the other big problems for me, let's ignore Adam's overall character of who he was and how he acted, but his grand scheme was so weak and so silly. Like, really, you're supposed to be this mega smart, hybrid fucking thing, part demon, part human, part machine, and this is your grand, idea. Like it's like, the previous villains and the future villains, it's a lot bigger stakes. It's usually end of the world kind of fucking shit. And his is just like, well, I'm going to make a big army of hybrids and I'm going to be mean to people. And it's
and that's something else that we talked about. Adam never felt like a viable threat the way the Master did, or the Mayor did, or Angelus did. And ironically, and this is something I'll touch on again when we cover the Angel finale to Sanshu in LA. I feel like, and this occurred to me today, I feel like the main antagonist of that episode to Sanshu in LA felt like a bigger threat in one single episode for one episode than Adam ever felt in 13 or 14 episodes after he was introduced.
The only thing that ever felt threatening about Adam was that he was a really good fighter, and that he had kind of defeated Buffy a couple of times, but that's happened before. So, but I mean, other than that, he at no time was he. The most thing you were scared of with Adam was that he might come up on some kids and decide to murder them again, like he did when he first. Like, it's like, other than that, it's just like, it's like, where's the threat? Just I don't know.
Right.
Anyway. But that is our contest. Look forward to seeing what we're going to do. So, James.
Now, that being said, Jeremy, how about if, I felt bad when we last parted, because you really wanted some deep fried dates and deets.
Yeah, I did. I really did.
And I just wouldn't give them to you. I threw those sons of bitches in an air fryer.
Yeah.
After you told me that you don't particularly care for the air fryer.
You know, French fries are okay in the air fryer. I'm cool with those. But you know, by and large, like if I want to have like I don't know, chicken tenders or something like that. Yeah, man, you want to have those deep fried artery clogging juices in there. You know what I mean?
Right. So I'm gonna deep fry up these dates and deets for you.
Hell yeah, bro.
Because I know that's really the only way you truly like your dates and deets. You'll eat them however else I serve them up to you.
Yeah.
But I know that deep down in the bottom of the clogged cockles of your heart, you like them deep fried. So that's what I'm going to do for you, buddy.
Right on, man. Right on.
As previously stated, we will be... Wait, how are we getting into this episode this week? I forgot.
What do you mean?
What did you say? You always say we're going to be such and suching into...
Oh. We are moshing into this week's
Moshing, yes. As previously stated, we'll be moshing into Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 4, Episode 22, our 78th episode of the series overall, and our Season 4 finale, Restless.
Yep. We made it, folks. We made it.
Our episode credited director this week is... Oh, no.
Is it?
It's Joss Whedon.
It is he who must not be left in a room alone with anyone.
Michelle Trachtenberg in particular.
Yes, particularly her.
And our episode credited writer is also Joss Whedon. Our original air date was May 23rd, 2000 on the now defunct WB network. Our Nielsen rating was 3.2 million households when it first aired, ranking it 77th out of the 124 network primetime shows for the week and 3rd out of the 16 primetime shows airing on the WB for the week. And I want you folks to remember those numbers for our Angel finale as well, because there's something interesting about them. Our regular cast, as always, includes Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy, Nicholas Brendan as Xander, Allison Hannigan as Willow, Anthony Stewart Head as Giles, James Marsters as Spike, and Mark Blucas as Riley. Not Bupkis. Put that sign down. Our guest stars this week include Christine Sutherland as Joyce, Amber Benson as Tara, Mercedes McNabb as Harmony, Michael Harney as Mr. Harris, George Hertzberg as Adam. Adam, I thought we were done with that fucker. Damn it.
Right.
Emma Caulfield as Anya, Seth Green as Oz. What? Armin Shimmerman as Principal Snyder.
What?
Finna Orich as Olivia, David Wells as the Cheese Man, and Sharon Ferguson as the First Slayer.
Just FYI, Cheese Man is my favorite character of all time, of any show.
He should be everybody's favorite character of all shows. I don't know why he didn't get a spinoff.
Soundgarden actually wrote a song about him. Cheese Man, come together with your plan, save me. You know.
Fun fact. So the Cheese Man has a line in this episode. It's I wear the cheese doesn't wear me, or something to that effect. Joss Whedon wrote that making fun of a line from the movie The Man in the Iron Mask, where the titular character says, I wear the mask does not wear me.
Right. I knew it came from somewhere when he said that line, but I didn't know where, and I didn't look it up. So I knew you would probably bring it up, because that's what makes you a fabulous co-host.
That's what I do. It's what I do.
My
episode synopsis this week reads, the antagonistic spirit of the First Slayer stalks the dreams of Buffy, Giles, Willow, and Xander, making them each face their innermost fears.
Well, I'm going to have to call it now and say I think yours wins again this week.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
I think it's just better. Here's mine. Mine reads, Buffy, Willow, Xander, and Giles experience dreams in which they are pursued by a mysterious figure. See, I just think yours is better.
I think so too.
It's juicier. It's got more flavor.
It's got more. And then once you've deep fried it, it locks in those juices. It locks them in.
Right.
So then when you bite into it, it's moist. It's juicy. The juice just dribbles right down onto your chin, right into the beard. Oh,
yep, cholesterol just drips down your face. It gets on your nipples. You're just like, oh, heart attack.
You always got to bring up the nipples, don't you? I don't have any anymore, and you just, God, you're the literal worst. Another interesting tidbit about this episode: there is no cold open.
I know, isn't that crazy? And I didn't realize it until I was about halfway through the episode, and I had paused, I think, to go get a drink or something, and I was like, I was getting a drink, because when I was making my drink, I was like, wait a minute, there was no cold open. Nope. I was like, that's really weird.
This is only one of 2 episodes during the entire series run that goes right into the credits and then our main story after our previously on recap. So with that in mind, I will take our initial opening post-credit scene.
Have at it, my friend.
We open on our gang, Buffy and Giles and Willow and Xander, at Buffy's, getting ready to relax with some videos after their defeat of Adam.
Do you want to explain to our younger viewers what you mean when you say relax with some videos?
So, let's see. There used to be a, what's the best? So you know how you can stream things now on Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and all that? Well, all of those things used to come on big cartridges that you would put into a big box. And that box was connected to your TV through wires, typically RCA cables. And that would play on your TV then.
Now, and where did you have to go and get these cartridges to play in the box on your television?
Well, you could rent them for a limited time at your local video rental store, Blockbuster, Family Video,
or mom and pop's small
deal. Or there were some mom and pop video stores that rented these, but you could also go to Walmart and buy them.
Yeah, but if you recall, James, back in the VHS days, actually purchasing VHSs was fucking expensive. So most people rented. That's what you did on your Friday night. You went out, you went to your Blockbuster, you rented the movies you wanted to see that weekend. You typically got 48-hour rental window, and if you didn't bring them back in time, you got to pay for them again.
Yes, you did. You got to pay for them for every day that you didn't bring them back. Right.
So yeah, it was. I would be okay with going back to that personally, but I digress.
So anyway, and we cut to Riley, who is leaving for a debriefing, and he is fully anticipating being granted a honorable discharge due to the numerous amount of people testifying that he's the reason they're alive. Not to mention the governments want to keep him silent about everything that happened at Sunnydale concerning the initiative.
Which, and we both know in real life, he would just disappear.
Right. They would just, he would be
He'd
he'd be in
cease to exist.
Guantanamo,
Yeah.
or a
If he was
Siberian
lucky,
prison.
if he was lucky. I mean, otherwise
Right.
he would just be in a vat, sealed in a drum, dropped in the ocean. So
Right. So he fucks off to meet up with his government superiors. And after he leaves, the rest of the gang settles down to watch Apocalypse Now, which I feel is a very relaxing choice after what they just went through.
sure. I was thinking maybe Faces of Death, but they went with Apocalypse Now.
Right. Mama Joyce is there, and she says that she would think after everything that they'd all been through, they'd be too exhausted. And they all say that they're feeling pretty wired after that enjoining spell. So Joyce leaves them to watch their videos, and they all settle down for an evening of movies, and they all fall asleep. They don't even make it through the...
Yeah, you're going to have to explain this too.
They don't even make it through the FBI warning at the beginning of the tape. So, children... your VHS tapes came with a federal warning that your tape was not to be copied, or you would go to jail.
Or what was it like? Or a $100,000 fine or something like that.
Something like that. But it was a federal crime.
Yeah.
So copying your VHS was a felony.
Yes, it was. And they also warned in that warning that you would be rectally raped in prison.
Right. Which was also worded as prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But we all knew what they meant. Anally raped in prison. Right. And thus, each dream begins. Why don't you take us through Willow's dream, Jeremy?
Well, Willow, strangely enough, is dreaming about scantily clad women. That's all is in her dream. And then we cut out right out of that and into the next dream. No, her dream. I think her dream is probably either hers or Giles. I like the most, I think. But Willow's dream is pretty cool. She's painting a poem in Greek on Tara's back. Like Tara's laying on a bed, and she's like making, like I just said, painting a poem on her back, on her naked back. And then she says she feels a lot of anxiety about her identity and the secret that she has. And at which point Tara says, "They'll find out, about you." And she then asks Willow if she's done with her homework, if she'll be done with her homework in time for class. And Willow says she doesn't want to leave. And Tara says, "But you've never taken drama before. You might miss something important." And so we cut to Willow kind of walk. And I mean, I know everybody's seen the episode that's watching, but man, I just thought like the scenery, like the visuals and stuff were so trippy. It's like, man, this actually kind of does feel like a dream, I think it was very, very well done.
Yeah. So the poem that Willow is painting is "Deathless Aphrodite on Your Lavish Throne" by the Greek poet Sappho.
Sappho, that's it. Yeah, he's one of my all-time favorites. So while she's walking through the hallways, she's joined by Xander and Oz, who were talking about the fact that Willow and Tara like to do spells together now, which I'm like, okay, so in other words, that's like, code for, so you guys are lesbo lovers now? Is that what's going on over here? I don't know. Seemed kind of funny to me. It is funny, and like it does kind of make sense in the context of like a dream, but it becomes less funny when you kind of realize that the reason that they talk about it that way is because the network was so fucking like had their butts so clenched over
Willow and Tara being in a fucking lesbian relationship.
Every network executive was clutching their pearls this from here on out.
Right. Like honestly, like the fact that they even let Joss and company put them in a relationship together is a fucking miracle and surprising. Yeah.
I think Joss basically, I think at this point he had just enough gravitas to be like, this is happening.
Right. I mean, he's got two.
They were like, okay, but they made him conform to certain pearl clutching,
Right. I'm sure they were like, all right, like you've got 2 hit shows on our network. We'll allow you a little bit of leeway, but here's the things that aren't gonna fly.
Yeah. They can't touch, kiss. Right.
So you mentioned how the settings in Willow's dream, like how it goes from one to the next, make it really feel like a dream.
Yeah.
Part of that is because the actual layout of the Buffy lot, it is that way. So like the Magic Box and the Bronze and the UC Sunnydale lecture hall and other locations were all built inside a huge warehouse. So you literally could step from like Tara's dorm into, the UC Sunnydale lecture hall or auditorium or whatever. So that helped play a part in these dreamlike transitions.
Yeah, because we'll see in Xander's dream, he makes a really cool transition, and that's when it becomes apparent, what you just said. So, but it lends itself perfectly to this dreamlike state. So, Willow then arrives at her drama class, and she's immediately told that they're about to open the performance of the class's production of A Death of a Salesman. And who's the director but a hilarious dream version of Giles? Go ahead.
Also, and like presumably everyone's watched this episode, and anybody that doesn't already know, even though they say they're performing Death of a Salesman, they are not performing Death of a Salesman.
No.
This is not Death of a Salesman.
We don't really know what the fuck. This is just some kind of weird dream thing.
Right.
It's like a mishmash of stuff because Riley's like in a cowboy outfit. Buffy, who's in the play, is dressed up like a 1920s. Sorry about that. 1920s.
Are we on the Gong Show now?
Yeah. She's dressed up like a 1920s.
Where's Jamie Farr?
Girl, and it's who knows what it actually is, but it's pretty funny. But yeah, that's when she meets the rest of the cast, which is Buffy and Harmony and Riley as a cowboy, and Harmony keeps like acting like she's gonna bite Giles' neck, and he's like, well, please stop that, please quit that. It's fucking funny. And then off stage, you hear a man announce to her that he's found a place for the cheese slices, which he displays on a table. And this is the introduction to the cheese man, who I love. And then Giles warns that everyone Willow has ever met is in the audience. And Willow's like, what the fuck? Hold the fuck. I've never even been in drama. We haven't even had a single class, and now I have to be in this play? This is so like a dream, dude. Like a nightmare. She's like, I don't know my lines. I don't even know what my fucking role is. And they're like, I think you hear off screen, you hear somebody say like 10 minutes to curtain or something like that. And she's like, fuck. And then the play begins. And Buffy now shows up in her normal clothing and saves Willow from some weird, like these attackers that you can't see. You just kind of see their hands coming up from underneath these like curtainy things, and they have knives and they're stabbing at her. And like quote unquote normal Buffy has appeared, and she saves Willow, and they go through this corridor, and poof, they're into a different classroom. And Buffy's like, "Why are you wearing a costume?" And Willow's like, "I'm not." Well, we should bring up that Willow's dressed like Willow from season 1, like the softer side of Sears Willow.
Yeah. I believe it's the outfit she wore in the very first episode.
That's what I was saying. It's like, and her hair is really long again, like it was back then when we first meet Willow. And
right. Yeah, it's the same dress she wore in Welcome to the Hellmouth when Buffy rips off the clothes that she's wearing.
Right. And so now she's in front of the class having to give a spiel, and Oz leans over and whispers to Tara, "I tried to warn you." And the two of them start flirting with each other, and Xander mocks Willow because she's giving her book report on The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And but then right as she begins, this weird fucking really crazy, like primitive looking, almost kind of cavemanish type looking weird girl attacks her, and Willow has the life sucked out of her in front of the class. And then we cut to the real Willow, like they're in Buffy's living room, and the real Willow, who's still in this like deep sleep, is like and she's like struggling, and that's the end of her little dream. And then we linger over, the camera kind of lingers over to Xander, and we zip inside of Xander's head to see what kind of dream he's having, which is what, James?
So he wakes up on Buffy's couch, and there's a clearly like altered version of Apocalypse Now playing on the TV, and
I love this dream.
He excuses himself to go to the bathroom, and he runs into Mama Summers, and she is clearly trying to.
This be honest. This was a young James fantasy, wasn't it?
No, sir. No.
I thought you had a thing for Mama Summers when you were young.
No. I mean, Kristen Sutherland, she is, nothing against her, but not my type. No.
Okay.
At any point.
Ever in your life.
Ever in my life. And she is trying to seduce him. So there's something that happens throughout Xander's dream, and I'm going to point it out early because it starts here with his interactions with Joyce. So there's times when the characters he's interacting with are talking to him, but they're not talking.
Oh yeah.
And it occurred to me, and I don't know, I didn't look it up, but I think this is probably true, that the dialogue that we hear Xander hearing when the other people aren't talking is what Xander fantasizes or dreams that they would say to him.
Right.
As opposed to what they actually say to him. Even in his dream, what they actually say to him, and we see their mouth moving when they say it. Does that make sense what I'm saying? I'm sorry.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So what they're actually saying, what's actually coming out of their mouths is what they're actually saying and what they mean. And then the dialogue we hear them saying without their mouths moving is what Xander fantasizes or dreams that these characters are saying to him.
Right.
So like even in his dreams, these characters won't actually say to him what he wants them to say to him.
Right. He's screwed even in his dreams.
Right. So he goes to the bathroom, and discovers that it's just a big space filled up with all these like scientist people who are watching him with clipboards and shit.
Yeah.
So he leaves to find another bathroom, and he is suddenly on a playground with Buffy, Giles, and Spike. And Buffy's playing in a big sandbox, and Giles and Spike are both wearing pretty much identical tweed suits, and they're swinging together.
Yep.
And it's hilarious. Like, Giles tells Xander that Spike's like a son to him, and Spike's like, he's training me to be a proper watcher.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
and
man.
Xander asks Buffy if she's sure she wants to be playing in the sandbox because it's a pretty big sandbox, and she calls him Big Brother and assures him that they're not coming for me yet. This is another thing. There's a look of realization on Xander's face when Buffy calls him Big Brother. Like, it finally fucking occurs to him that she doesn't see him in any kind of like romantic light or anything.
Right.
So then we abruptly, of course, as dreams tend to do, are now in Xander's ice cream truck, where he's working, and Anya's there. And she's asking him if he knows where he's going, and tells him that she's thinking of getting back into Vengeance. And while they're talking, Willow and Tara show up, and they're dressed in particularly unusually revealing clothing and very rakish makeup, and
it's like dominatrix stuff.
And they start to make out with each other in the rear of the van and suggest that he join them. Of course, we don't see it because, heaven forbid, the network show two women kissing.
Yeah.
In 2000.
Right.
Xander, of course, being Xander, starts to head back towards them in the rear of the ice cream truck, but suddenly he's back in his basement all alone, and we hear some sort of growling animal trying to get into the door at the top of the stairs. But we hear that it's Xander's, presumably Xander's dad, that's actually the one at the top of the stairs trying to force his way in.
Who, by the way, if it's a representation of Xander's dad, he's a fucking dick.
Right. Xander, goes to make a getaway, and we see the cheese man, and the cheese man shows Xander a plate of cheese and tells Xander that the cheese won't protect him.
Yep. Listen, the cheese man is a vital cog in your dream.
When we get to the end of this and you guys find out what the cheese man like represents, it's gonna blow your fucking minds, I promise you. So then Xander is suddenly back at UC Sunnydale, and he's talking to Giles, and Giles is telling him what's going on, and he's emphasizes that Xander has to listen carefully because his life may depend on what he's about to tell him. And then Giles inexplicably starts speaking French, and Anya shows up, and she's also starts speaking French. And then Xander gets grabbed by them and a group of other people, and they carry him away into what is now a scene from Apocalypse Now, where Principal Snyder is portraying the Marlon Brando character. and he's telling him that he's telling Xander that his time's running out, and Xander tells him that he's just trying to get away from something he can't fight, and Snyder tells him that, or Xander tells Snyder that he's a comfortador, which is something he had told Joyce. And Snyder tells him that he's not a soldier or a comfortador, but he's a whipping boy. And Xander tells Snyder how happy he is that he got eaten by a snake.
Yeah. Yep.
At that point, this primitive girl shows up again, and Xander starts to flee from her and finds himself suddenly in Giles's apartment, and then Buffy's dorm, and then finally back in his basement again, where this is where we find out that the monster at the top of the stairs is actually Xander's father, and he busts in and he's berating and belittling him, and all of a sudden his father turns into the primitive and rips out Xander's heart.
And eats it.
He doesn't eat it.
No?
No. Did you notice in Xander's dream, the only two women he didn't sexualize were Buffy and, ironically, his own girlfriend, Anya?
Yeah. Which is surprising.
What else? There was something else I wanted to point out about that. Where is it? So the translation of the French that was being spoken in that scene, Giles says, "The house where we're all sleeping. All your friends are there having a wonderful time and getting on with their lives. The creature can't hurt you there." Xander says, "What? Go where? I don't understand." Giles, "Oh, for God's sake, this is no time for your idiotic games." Anya shows up and says in French, "Xander, you have to come with us now. Everybody's waiting for you." Giles in French, "That's what I've been trying to tell him." Xander in English, "Honey, I can't hear you." Anya in French, "It's not important. I'll take you there." And that's when they lead him off. That leads us into Giles's dream. And what happens in his dream, Jeremy?
Massive fire.
Everyone's on fucking fire.
Everyone is like just burning, and Giles is Ripper, and he's like, "Let them all die. Let them all die." No. So Giles starts out at a fairground in Restfield Cemetery with Olivia, who we have not seen in since mid-season, somewhere around in there.
Yeah, maybe even before that.
Yeah, and she is pregnant and pushing a baby stroller.
Fun fact: this was supposed to be Jenny Calendar, but they could not. But they could not get Robia Lamort back for the episode.
She's like, "Fuck you guys! You murdered my character for no reason. I'm not coming back."
Right.
And Buffy is acting as if she were like Buffy is playing the part of their like little girl. She's acting like she's about, I don't know, 6 or 7, and she throws a ball. She's throwing balls at this like carnival game, like where she's like quote unquote staking a vampire. And she gets rewarded with cotton candy. and Giles comments that she's like, "You're gonna get that all over your face." And when she turns and looks at him, her face is covered in mud. And Giles at this point kind of realizes something's weird. Something's going on here. So he confronts Spike, who's posing for a photo shoot in his crypt that they've now went into, and it's hilarious. I mean, his poses and shit is just hilarious. And Olivia's now sobbing. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And Spike's like, "Well, I've hired myself out as a carnival sideshow while the cheese man is nearby wearing slices of cheese." Wearing slices of cheese. Yes, I said that. Then after lamenting that Buffy should have killed the vampire, because he's like, Buffy should have killed you, to Spike. And, Giles leaves the mausoleum and ends up in the Bronze, where he meets up with Anya, who's getting applause and laughs because she's doing a stand-up comedy routine on stage. That's right, Anya is doing a stand-up comedy routine. And Xander and Willow
and it's hilarious for the fact that it is so unfunny, it's funny.
Yeah, totally unfunny. as Anya's stand-up would probably be. Xander and Willow are in the audience. Xander has this big gaping fucking chest wound, and so he and Willow both warn him of what's going on in the real world. You know, this primeval weird girl, and so they get busy researching in these old books, and they ask Giles to help, and they're like, "It's very important that we get the right answer, or we don't stand a chance." And all of a sudden, Giles breaks out into song, and he like. It's funny, but it's kind of cool because he sings like his thoughts, and he's like,
the song is it's actually called the exposition song.
Is it?
Yeah, because it's all, like you said, it's all like exposition and his thoughts and whatnot. But yeah, it's funny, but it's also kind of catchy.
Yeah, because at one point he's speaking, the spell we cast with Buffy must have released some primeval and primal evil. I mean, it's funny. Then he gives Willow and Xander orders on how to deal with what's hunting them. But then the sound system breaks down and some shit's going crazy, and he like crawls backstage there. He's like following this cable that's on the ground so he can like fix the sound system. And he gets to the end of it, and there's this big tangle of wires. And then he sees this like vintage style like watch, and he like starts to kind of realize who's pursuing him. Right when she jumps, kind of like out of nowhere from above, like, and lands on him. And Giles says that he can feed her with his intellect. But she'd never understand as she never had a watcher. And then the girl fucking scalps Giles.
Let me ask you, like, obviously this is going to have to be like a hindsight type thing. When you first watched this episode back in 2000, when it originally aired, when he said that line about, of course you wouldn't understand because you never had a watcher, did it dawn on you then that we were dealing with the first Slayer?
No.
Really?
No, it didn't. Probably not till much later. When we kind of, I don't want to give anything away, but when we kind of delve deeper into this whole thing with the first deal,
Okay.
No, it didn't dawn on me.
I also want to say, and I'll say this again in our wrap up. If you're a first time watcher, as I know some of our listeners are, before you move on to season 5, go back and really watch this episode again. Really watch it and really pay attention to it and really remember it, because there's so much that happens in each of these dreams that we can't tell you what it means because it's going to be major spoilers for not just season 5, but
6
like,
and 7.
Like future, a lot of season 5 in particular, but also into like 6 and 7. So you really, before you start watching season 5, really sit down and watch this episode again and pay attention to each of these dreams. And then as we're going into season 5, Jeremy and I will kind of call back to certain things that happen, in these dreams. But it really is a testament to God, man. As much as I hate to say it, it is a testament to Joss and how his mind works as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
What
not
he did with it,
not as a pedophile.
Not as a human being existing with other humans, but solely as a writer and a storyteller. But yeah, I really urge you to, especially if this is your first time, go back, rewatch this episode, and really pay attention to it. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
No, once she scalps Giles, we come out to Giles in the real world, asleep in Buffy's living room, and he's like, oh, and so now he's struggling in his sleep too, and the camera lingers, and it kind of pans over to Buffy, and we go into Buffy's dream, which is what, James?
So she's awakened by Anya in Buffy and Willow's dorm room, and it quickly switches to her own room at home, and she is talking to Tara, and she's wondering where everyone is since they were supposed to come over and watch movies. And out of nowhere, we see this primitive girl like scream in Buffy's face, and suddenly Buffy is in her own bed now. And she gets out and looks at the sheets, and she says that her and Faith just made that bed, which is a callback to, was it This Year's Girl, where that opened with the dream of Buffy and Faith?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
It was the first of the 2 Faith episodes this season. And Tara tells Buffy that she lost them, and notes that the clock says 7:30, but it's wrong. And that's fucking important, people. I'm gonna tell you, that's fucking important.
Yeah, well, don't go into too much detail.
And she attempts to give Buffy the tarot card that represented Buffy in the enjoining spell, which was Manos. But Buffy says she's never going to use those. And Buffy leaves to go look for everyone else, and Tara tells her, Jesus Christ, she says, be back before dawn. So then Buffy finds herself in the UC Sunnydale hallway talking to Mama Joyce, who is living in the walls. And
quite literally.
Right. Which, again, it's a dream, but they do such a good job of like obviously in the context of Buffy's dream, this refers to the wall that is up between her and Joyce, and she's moved.
Fuck walls. She's never in the fucking show anymore.
And then she finds herself at the Initiative with Riley, and he's been promoted to Surgeon General, and he is with the human version of Adam, and they were working on plans for world domination.
Does the regular Adam, like the human version of Adam, where it's basically just the actor with no prosthetics and makeup and shit. Does he look really, really small compared to how he looked as?
He does.
It's really weird. Yeah.
Buffy asks Adam what his real name was before, but he tells her that there's not a man among them that can remember. And they're interrupted by an attacking demon, and Riley and Adam leave saying that they're gonna build a pillow fort for protection.
Yep, we got to build a pillow fort.
Buffy finds her weapons bag, and the only thing in it is mud, which she proceeds to smear on her face. And Riley interrupts her and says, "I thought you were looking for your friends." And then he says, "Okay, killer, if that's the way you want it, then I guess you're on your own." And he leaves. More foreshadowing. Sorry. I'm telling you guys, pay attention to these dreams. Buffy's in particular, honestly.
Oh, yes.
So,
especially Buffy's. Yeah, especially.
But also Xander's.
Well, and some of Giles, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Towards the middle part and towards the end of Giles. Well, kind of the beginning, too, really, actually. But anyway.
So, Buffy ends up in the desert, and we see the cheese man waving slices of cheese at her, and she finally confronts this primitive girl that's been hunting her and her friends through their dreams. And the primitive girl is speaking through Terra, and this is where we find out that she is the first Slayer. And she tells Buffy that she can't have friends and she has to be alone. And Buffy suddenly finds a tarot deck in her hands. But instead of it being the usual tarot pictures, the top card is a video of Buffy's friends as they look right now in the real world in her living room. And Buffy is looking at it, and she says, "I'm not alone." And she tells the first Slayer that she lives in the world, and she decides her own actions, and she wants a full life. And the first Slayer says, not through terror this time, she forms the words herself, and she says, "No friends, just kill. We are alone." And Buffy tells her, "That's it, I'm waking up." And they proceed to fight in the desert. They engage in fisticuffs, as Jeremy would say. And
yeah, because this ain't no karate fight. It's just a sloppy fisticuff deal.
And as Buffy gets the upper hand and defeats the first Slayer, she wakes up in her living room next to Giles and Willow and Xander, who are all very clearly dying in the moment. And the first Slayer attacks again, and it repeatedly stabs Buffy with a knife, at which point Buffy realizes that she can stop the fight in her mind if she just rejects the first Slayer and basically denies her any power over her, which she does, telling the first Slayer, "You're not the source of me," at which point the first Slayer vanishes and everybody wakes up. It's very Nancy and Freddy Krueger in the very first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Clearly, Joss was a fan.
And that leads us to them all waking up. And what happens there, Jeremy?
Well, really quick before I go to that, did you see the goof in the last scene? Well, when they were still in the desert.
No, but I'm sure it was a boom mic visible or something. Oh no, it was the camper van in the distance. Yes,
it was.
yes.
Yes, it
You know,
was.
I didn't see it, but I read about it when I was doing research for the
No, I actually saw it. I was
Did
like,
you?
oh, whoa! I paused it back up a few times. I was like, lol. What it was is it was Jesse and Mr. White, and they were cooking meth.
And I've never seen Breaking Bad, but I know enough to understand your reference.
Yeah, it's damn good show. Anyway, so after they've all woke up and everything, they're discussing their experiences they had, and Giles surmises that everyone joining their essences with the Slayers is what caused the first Slayer to attack, believing it to be an affront to the power of the Slayer. And Joyce comes in and stuff, and fucking Xander's all awkward and weird around her and everything, and Buffy fucks off to go take a shower. She's feeling kind of weird about this whole interaction she had with the first Slayer, and here we go with some foreshadowing, James. As she walks past her bedroom, she can hear Tara's voice in her head, warning her that she has no idea who she really is or what is coming. And we cut to credits, and that is the final episode of season 4 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes, it is. Jeremy,
Yes,
would
sir.
you like to play America's new favorite game, Guess the Body Count?
0.
0. Good job. Yes.
Hey,
you win. Would you like to know what your prize is?
Yes, I would.
You win an item of your choosing from our merch store that you get to buy for yourself.
That I have to buy for myself? Yeah. I knew that's where it was going.
Our music this week, series composer Christoph Beck with our original score as always, but also with Willow's Nightmare, A Really Big Sandbox, Two Girls, One Van, Xander's Nightmare, Body Paint, Spaghetti, Chain of Ancients, and First Rage.
When did Two Girls, One Cup come out?
Obviously before Restless came out.
Oh.
Also, Christoph Beck with Four Star Mary and Anthony Stewart Head with Exposition Song, which we did touch on when that happened. Jeremy,
Yes, sir.
will you please tell me and our lovely audience how many slices of cheese from the Cheese Man do you give this episode?
I was going to use you, fucker. This is a 4, dude. This is a 4. It was almost a 5 for me, but I thought I can't quite put it to the level of the 5s that I've given. But it's a fucking good episode. I mean, all the imagery and just how well done it was. That all the dreams really did feel like fucked up dreams you would actually have, and yeah, almost every I hate to say it, but almost every time Joss writes and directs something, it's a 4 or a 5, you know, and it just is, man. It's there's no real issues with it. There's no big problems. There wasn't any things where I was bitching about stuff like, God damn it, that's so fucking stupid, you know, and but I couldn't quite give it, because I'm pretty stingy on my 5s. I try to be, at least. I try to give the 5s only to the episodes that just completely knock me fucking out. And so I gave this one a 4, but man, it's a fucking good episode. I would definitely put it on the list of must watches for sure. Yeah, just that imagery and it really felt like the weird ass dreams that a person has, you know, and
Yeah.
and it foreshadows so much shit, dude. So much shit.
And that that actually plays into the score that I end up giving it, and I really hate giving it the score that I gave it, but I have to, because in honor of trying to put myself in a first time viewer mindset, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get into that when it's my turn. You go ahead.
Okay, I'm pretty well. That's pretty much all I have to say. I mean, it was a solid episode that I have no big complaints about, and I just think the imagery and the writing and like almost all Giles episodes, it has really good fucking humor in it. So, yeah, it's a solid 4, thumbs up, and that's all I got to say. James,
Yes, sir.
tell me, myself, and I, and also our delicious audience,
Yummy.
on a scale of 1 to 4.
Wait. Have you been tasting our audience?
Maybe I have.
Naughty
boy. On a scale of 1 to 5, I meant to say, how many Seeing Giles do you give this episode? And give us your final thoughts.
Before I go, what was your cheese man thing going to be before I stole it?
Pretty much the same thing. How many pieces of cheese from Cheese Man? What would you give it?
I'm going to give this episode, man, I really floundered. I bounced back and forth on this. I'm giving this 4 singing Gileses. I wanted to give it a 5. I really did.
So did I.
But I would have been giving it a 5 solely based on what I now know about what this episode represents and contains. So I had to step it back a little bit and be like, I can't do that. So I have to give it a 4 because it's a great episode. If it was a solely standalone episode, if there wasn't so much foreshadowing and whatnot, it would be a hard 4, and on the top end of a 4, even though it makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah,
as a standalone episode.
Yeah,
but I think if it was a standalone episode, that's why it would be a 4, because that's how dreams are for the most part. They don't make any fucking sense to you.
Yeah.
Like, you have to make sense of your own dreams 9 times out of 10. And this episode, like you said, does such a great job of capturing a dreamlike state and what it's like to be in your own dreams. Just from the nonsensical things going on around you to the sudden changes in environment, which, like, as we talked about before, the way the Buffy studio lot is set up, lent itself beautifully to those kinds of sudden transitions. To just the random things in the dream that even after you've analyzed it and decided what everything else means, there's still one thing that just doesn't make sense at all and doesn't mean anything. And ultimately, for this, that's the Cheese Man. Like, the Cheese Man doesn't hold any place. He's just random. He's just there because your dreams always have one random thing in it that's never going to make any sense, no matter how hard you analyze it.
My dreams have more than one, let me tell you.
Well, that's because you're not in touch with your feelings and you don't like feelings. So you're unable to analyze your dreams in a healthy manner.
I'm somewhat dead on the inside.
But yeah, it's a solid 4. Man, like,
I had a feeling we were going to be in pretty strong agreement about this episode.
Yeah, and like I said, I really wanted to give it a 5, much like yourself, but that extra point honestly solely would have been based on just the amount of foreshadowing that's done in this episode that they nail. And it's like, man, you have to go back and you have to wonder, like, did did Joss sit down and break these story points like up to 3 years in advance in some cases?
I think he did. I think he had a rough outline of every season well ahead of time. Like what were going to be the big points, what were going to be the big bads, and what were going to be like the jaw-dropping moments. Probably he had that all, skeletonized out.
Right. Because there are... So, I will say... There's most of what's foreshadowed in this episode comes to pass by the end of season 5.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a couple things that do linger into 6 and 7. I don't have any knowledge that what I'm about to say is true. I personally believe that season 5 may have originally been intended to be the final season of Buffy.
It very well could have.
And it was just so popular that it ended up getting picked up by another network. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that more throughout season 5 and towards the end of season 5. But yeah, I mean, we've said this before. I've said it. You've said it. Man, as much as I hate it, it's like Joss, when it comes to this show and Angel, like the dude is on fire. Like he is so good at what he does, and like I absolutely hate to give him any kind of kudos, because he is such a shit human. But man, if he's involved in an episode like writing or directing, particularly writing, like
even more so if he writes and directs the episode, it's usually a fucking banger.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, it's a solid 4. It's a high 4. It's definitely a must watch, And like I said before, if you're listening and you're a first time Buffy watcher, I urge you go back, rewatch this episode, really pay attention to it and what happens in these dreams, and then prior to season 5, because you're gonna pull out those things that are foreshadowed. So yeah, that's it for me.
All right, James, did you know that if you go to www.buffyrevisited.com,
wait, you don't have to type in http // ?
No, you don't.
What? Since when?
Right. God, I remember when you literally had to.
I don't even think you have to type www in most of the time anymore. You just whatever.com.
Yeah.
Penises.com.
Or .whatever. There are so many top-level domains now. It's insane.
Right.
Anyway,
penis.
Yeah. If you were to go to that address, it'll take you to our website, which will link you not only to the audio podcast itself, but also to our Facebook page. And our Facebook page will link you to everything, including our email, buffyrevisited@gmail.com, including the YouTube page where you can watch this very podcast right this very second.
This podcast right now that we're recording right now.
This one, bro.
You can be watched right now.
It's right now. It's right now.
But is it then as well?
It's then, but it's right now.
Holy shit, dude.
Right? I know. Magic.
My brain hurts.
Do. The more you know. So yeah. Comment on our YouTube pages for the videos for the podcast. Comment on the Facebook page. Send us an email. Whatever. It's fine. It's cool. But yeah, that's all the ways you can get to us. It's pretty fucking easy. We're not hidden. That's for sure. So next week, we're going to be wrapping up this season in its entirety with Angel season 1, episode 22 to Shanshu in LA.
Yes.
And it's going to be something else. I'm sure of that. James, do you have anything you wanna say that you wanna close the show with?
Nope.
Okay. Well, you suck. No. So anyway, yeah, we'll see you guys all next week. Thanks for joining us this week. Again, next week is Angel season 1, episode 22 to Shanshu in LA, and we're gonna be wrapping this bitch up, everybody. So until then, I've been one of your hosts. I'm Jeremy.
I'm your other host, James.
Ta-ta.